Hello and welcome to Pitt Street Research. My name is Stuart Roberts and I'm one of the co-founders of our firm. And joining me from Singapore on the morning of Thursday, the 12th of June, 2025, is Dr. David Foster, who's the CEO of Island Pharmaceuticals, ASX ILA. David, good morning.
Good morning, Stuart. Thank you for asking the questions. Thank you for having me.
So, 12th of June, some great data out today. You've run a phase 2A with your lead molecule in dengue virus. Phase 2A, very small numbers, but what we wanted to show is could your molecule blunt the effects of dengue infection? Turns out, as a prophylactic, this thing works like a dream. Admittedly, on small numbers of subjects, but you got what you came for, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Stuart. You're exactly right. So, the study that we're doing it's a challenge study. And so we're infecting healthy individuals with an attenuated strain of the dengue virus. Doing it gives us the opportunity to look at the infection, at the ability of ISLA-101 to be a preventative or prophylactic, or we can study it as a treatment. And we looked at both. Okay. What we've done over the last few days is we've gotten the final results from that. We have unblinded the data. We got to see who was on placebo, who was on active drug. And what we can say is that in the prophylactic arm, we see a fantastic result. We see clear evidence of a reduced viremia or virus level in the blood of the individuals on ISLA-101. We also see a substantial reduction in symptoms or dengue associated in symptoms. So the take home there is people were less sick. We started out to try to make a difference, and we're seeing people who are less sick following a dengue infection. And so that is really important to us. Now, when we look at the treatment cohort, keep in mind these people were infected with a virus. 7 days later, they were given the drug. By this time, most of them are viremic. Most of them are showing symptoms. And so we knew it was going to be a heavy lift to decipher a signal out of this study, but we nonetheless wanted to look and see what we could find. And we see clear evidence of drug effects in the treatment arm as well, but we're doing a little more analysis to find out exactly what that means. So again, high level, this was a wildly successful study. We're incredibly excited about it. As to the go, no go question, we definitely have a go forward question or a go forward answer, and we're excited about the next studies.
Right. It's interesting. Just in the last little while, there's been an increase in news stories about dengue showing up in our erstwhile temperate part of the world here in Australia and elsewhere. So public consciousness of dengue is increased at the moment. There's very few drug programs at the moment that are as advanced as yours for this important emerging disease condition.
So you're exactly right. So there's a few different things we think about when you talk about different therapies or countermeasures for dengue. Vaccines are challenging. They're few and far between, and we think that there's some real hurdles with those. Even though some of them are getting approved, which is fine. In terms of small molecules, we've just concluded this phase 2A study. We're aware of only one other molecule that's in the clinic that would be looking at dengue infected individuals. So we really believe we are poised in a very strong situation to address the huge and, as you say, growing problem with dengue infections. And again, the dengue infections are not just increasing number in the tropics. It's all over the place. We're seeing them run through Europe, through the United States, the northern part of Australia. So again, the problem is there. The problem is growing. We still think we have a very good asset to address that problem.
Right. When you talk to the regulatory agencies, they encourage you to run a small phase 2, which we've just completed now, and you'll do some more analysis on the data. Coming soon is a phase 2B, and that'll be the interesting one. Now, it might be early days, but talk to us about what you anticipate the structure of that study will look like.
Yeah, so this is a great question and one that is going to require us a little bit of time to go through the data to see really what the treatment values look like compared to what the prophylactic results look like. You mentioned at the outset that I'm in Singapore, and that is true. So when we got the results, we assembled a clinical advisory team who were all going to be in Singapore. So I'm here. I met yesterday with 6 members of our clinical advisory team, and we spent hours going through the data, talking about potential strategies for what is the next clinical trial. What does it look like if it's a treatment? What does it look like if it's a prophylactic? The jury's still out on what their recommendation is going to be. There's more analysis we need to do of the data. But you're right. It looks like we'll probably be doing a larger study in endemic regions, but I don't know exactly what it looks like right now.
Right. And again, this might be me speculating. So tell me if you agree or disagree with this.
Yeah.
Given the emerging health emergency, which is dengue,
Yep.
there's the potential for regulatory agencies to fast track this if the 2B numbers are any good.
So I think that that's going to depend largely on the countries that we're talking to.
Right.
And we will want to talk to the different regulatory agencies in Latin America, throughout Southeast Asia, and get their appetite for doing something like that. There are examples, for instance, of we've seen it during COVID, of emergency use authorizations in the United States for some of the COVID drugs, as an example. There are similar schemes in countries around the globe. And so I think depending on the severity of the outbreak, based on the fact that we now have some preliminary, and as you said, in a small set of patients, but we have some efficacy data. And so I think we could begin to have those conversations.
Right. Now, meanwhile, if things go really well, you qualify for a priority review voucher in the US, given a long-standing policy of awarding these things to drugs for new infectious diseases or new drugs for infectious diseases. So that's coming down the pipeline. Also interesting to me is you've optioned a bioprotection drug related to Marburg from another company called BioCryst. That was late last year. You've got a little bit of time to run on the option there. How's those negotiations going?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You mentioned the PRV, both ISLA 101 and galidesivir are PRV eligible programs. So
Right.
that's one of the criteria that we look at when we're investigating opportunities for pipeline expansion. The conversations with BioCryst are moving along at a fairly rapid pace these days. We're making really good progress, and hopefully we'll have more to discuss in the not too distant future, but we're making good progress there.
Right. So a couple of interesting programs. One potential, one real, with priority review vouchers coming down the pike. What do you hope the next 12 months are going to bring for you?
Yeah, so the next 12 months, we want to close on the galidesivir acquisition. We're very excited about that. I think, the unique thing about galidesivir is it could have a very rapid path to approval because, and without getting too far into the trenches, we may be able to pursue what's called the animal rule in the United States, which means because we'd be going after Marburg, which is a terrible, horrible hemorrhagic fever for which there's no treatment. And you really can't run clinical trials, human clinical trials with it because you can't put anybody on placebo because that person's going to die. So it's not ethical, it's unsafe. And so the FDA, recognizing this, created the animal rule and said if you can't run an ethical or a safe human efficacy study, you can get approval based on animal studies if you run two successful animal studies in human phase one clinical trials to look at safety of your molecule. So BioCryst has already completed one successful Marburg study. They've already completed phase one clinical trials. And so I think what we would anticipate doing after we talk to the FDA is we would probably start working really hard on a non-human primate study in Marburg infected animals and see if we could submit for approval after that. That could be very fast to get to an NDA submission. With respect to ISLA 101, we, in the next few weeks, will be meeting with our clinical advisory team to figure out exactly what this next clinical trial is going to look like, and then we'll start implementing that. So I think that we should be parallel tracking two programs, both of which have PRVs at the end of the tunnel.
Right. I want to conclude by answering a question that I've had from a number of people. I'm a shareholder in this company. I'm a big believer in the ISLA 101 program.
Mhm.
Often you talk to people who are knowledgeable about pharmaceuticals, and they'll say dengue is a problem of emerging healthcare systems, given that traditionally it's been endemic in the tropics. In other words,
Yeah.
you're not going to get the drug pricing that you would get for a disease condition that hits latitudes 40 to 60 north, for example. What's your answer to that?
Well, my answer to that is years ago, I think that it was safer to draw that conclusion. I think today we're seeing that that's absolutely not the case. We're seeing dengue move in through Europe. We're seeing it move in through the southern parts of the United States, into the northern parts of Australia. So there will be, and if you look at where dengue is predicted to be endemic in just the next 25 years, it's half of Australia and half of the United States. So I think that we're seeing the geographies of dengue endemic countries change, which will command different pricing in different countries. That's one thing. I think two, we have lots of travelers. The data that we've just obtained out of this clinical trial, very compelling prophylactic data, strongly suggests this could be a travel medicine product, somewhat analogous to antimalarials.
Right.
This would be people in the United States traveling anywhere where dengue might be endemic today would want to take this before they're going. It could be the government or the military sending soldiers into endemic countries. We could have a contract with them. I think the market opportunity is absolutely phenomenal. When we look at anti-malarials, that's about $1 billion market today
Right. Right.
with really inexpensive generic drugs. This would
Right.
not be that inexpensive. It would be a patent protected product. So we think there's still opportunities for probably differential pricing in different geographies, but a huge market opportunity in front of us.
Right. Well, David Foster, well done to you and the team at Island Pharmaceuticals for bringing it this far. A great set of numbers on today's data. Keep up the good work, and thank you for joining Pitt Street Research.
Stuart, thank you so much for your support and for your time today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.